Hi, welcome to the Book Corner with me, Mich Atagana. Let's discover new worlds together. Hello, welcome to the Book Corner with Mich Atagana, the podcast where we talk about books that challenge us, captivate us, inspire us, and linger in our hearts long after we've closed the final page. I'm your host, Mich, and today we're going to dive into a book that is both tender and thought-provoking. I know, there's also a few trigger warnings with this book. I'm talking about Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune. So this book deals with death and acceptance of death. So please note that it does have a lot of kind of those emotional themes. And I wanted to just make sure that you're prepared for the kind of conversation we're going to have today. Because, like I said, it's a book about death, but it's also a book about life. Like, I think more importantly, it's a book about life. It's about what it means to truly live, to love, to embrace the people around us. And this is my third TJ Klune book that I'm reading. So the House in the Cerulean Sea, I think it's somewhere on the shelf. Okay, there we go. The House in the Cerulean Sea. I don't know if you can see that. I'm like stretching for this, but The House in the Cerulean Sea is on the shelf in the studio with me today. I read the duology, and it's, if you've read those two books, you understand the kind of writer that T.J. Klune is. He's a master at weaving stories. He really, really good at weaving stories about grief. At least based on my 3-book knowledge, and I've got 2 more of his books that I'm gonna start reading in the next couple of days as well. But he weaves stories that are about grief, about redemption, unexpected second chances. I love a good second chance story because I think, in this world we all deserve a second chance moment. And it also, but it builds them in a way that it feels like a warm hug. A friend of mine once asked me, describe The House in the Cerulean Sea for me. Why should I read it? And was like, it's like a warm hug, like a warm hug from your favorite person. And that's what his writing feels like to me, a warm hug. Like, even though it's tugging at your heartstrings, you feel comforted in the storytelling. Um, I remember when I think I was in San Francisco, I was shopping with a friend of mine at this incredibly beautiful independent bookstore called Green Apple Books. And we were picking like a bunch of books. I was kind of talking him through, like, we went to the sci-fi fantasy section, my favorite section in any bookstore. And I was telling him about all these other books I'd read and what I loved about them. And then we saw this book, Under the Whispering Door. And I picked it up and I was just like, I gotta read this. I gotta read this. And I knew it was going to be deeply emotional because, like I said, it's a book about death. Uh, but I just wasn't prepared for how deeply it would resonate with me specifically. But how deeply I feel like it resonates with just life and the way we live life. So let's get into the house, the Under the Whispering Door. So at its core, this book is about Wallace Price. Wallace Price is a ruthless, work-obsessed lawyer who dies suddenly and finds himself in the afterlife. And this afterlife is not your regular afterlife. It's a very peculiar afterlife. But instead of moving on, Wallace ends up in this cozy tea shop. And I knew I was gonna love this book when there was tea involved, because you guys know how I feel about tea. When there was tea involved, I was like, this book is for me. So he finds himself in this cozy tea shop run by this ferryman named Hugo, who helps souls cross over, and his job is to get Wallace ready to cross over to what comes next, right? I also like, and I think I follow TJ Klune on Instagram, and I definitely feel he's one of those people that, believes in the fantastical, but he doesn't subscribe to a certain kind of, like, a specific kind of afterlife. So it's very vague what this afterlife is. Like, Hugo doesn't know what comes next. Even the person who is sort of in charge of, these little motley crew of afterlife curators, as I call them, doesn't even really know what happens. It's like there's these layers to life and living, right? So Hugo's job is to get Wallace ready for when he can move on to the next thing. Um, when we meet Wallace, he is literally, like we said, ruthless. He doesn't care. It's all about the job. It's all about the bottom line and things like that. So when he dies, he's obviously very resistant to this idea, not just the idea of death, but just resistant to everything that is happening where he's at now in this book, in this tea shop with Hugo, and all the other characters we get to meet, and I'll talk about that just now. So he doesn't believe his death won. He's like, I'm not dead, can't be dead. Even when he accepts that he's dead, he can't accept that his life, the life that he loved so much, full of ambition, you know, it was like his life was like so full of ambition, so full of drive, but it had little to no kindness in it. It's truly over. He can't believe that it's done. Like he wants more. Like he wants to bargain for more. He wants to run away back to the real world and live his life because this can't be it. Um, but the tea shop, Hugo's tea shop, and the people in it, like the kindness, like Hugo is the personification of kindness. Like they really begin to change him as the story goes. Now, mind you, you have Hugo, a ferryman, right? He's there. His job is to help souls cross over to the afterlife. One, you've got a character named May, who's a reaper. Her job is to go out into the world and bring newly departed souls to the tea shop so they can cross over. You've got a ghost dog that used to belong to Hugo, who's chilling in the house. You've got Nelson, Hugo's grandfather. So yeah, Hugo's grandfather also chilling in the house with them. So you've got three entities that are ghosts, right? And then you've got corporeal beings, Hugo and May, right? Hugo cannot touch any of these ghosts that he's meant to cross over. May can, and sometimes May can decide like her can alter her perception to be like someone who can touch them and someone who can't touch. Like she's got reaper powers. But this tea shop is an actual functioning tea shop. So people, corporeal, human, alive people, come to this tea shop on a daily basis to have tea and eat pastries, with these ghosts just lurking around waiting to move on. So that context, like just understand the world we're in, right? So we are sitting with Wallace. So Wallace is trying to live his life in this tea shop because he doesn't accept that he's dead. So he's not ready to actually cross over. So he's exploring his life with the people in it. Like I said, Hugo, the personification of kindness, is giving him time, is helping him work through things. And what follows in the story is truly a journey that is deeply moving. Um, it's it's full of growth. It's full of love. It's full of self reflection and Wallace learning about himself and finding himself changing almost without his permission in many ways. There's a gentle, bittersweet magic to the way this is written, and I think that's what I liked about this book. Where if you've read The House in the Cerulean Sea, you know this was a book about magical creatures and all these magical creatures doing magical things. Here's a book about ordinary people in an afterlife, and exploring the afterlife and without the living being none the wiser around it. I like how the way Wallace is given time, not to undo his mistakes. So this is not a go relive your life second chance type book. No, it's not about undoing his mistakes, but it's to understand them. It's to learn what he never took the time to appreciate while he was alive. And I think a lot of us, we don't think about that. I remember I used to have this conversation with a friend of mine where he used to go, do we have to do everything now? Does everything have to be rushed right now? We have tomorrow. Life is long. And I get it. Life is long, but life is also short. And I think we never take enough time to appreciate the moment, the things we live for, and the purpose of living. The things that truly capture our hearts. Like, I always say, like, tell people how you feel now. Waiting tomorrow doesn't serve anyone but your ego or your fears. And I really love that Wallace is given time to try and understand, those things he didn't appreciate while he was alive. And I also feel like the question the novel really asks for me is like, what does it mean to live well? And if given another chance, would you do things differently? And, you know, again, I told you guys this is a powerfully kind of thought provoking, tender book. Because if I look at my life and I kind of look back the last 3 decades and I'm like, have I lived well? And what does living well mean? Is it in the things I achieved? Is it in the accomplishment? Is it in the kindness I showed to people? Is it in the gentleness in my voice when being critical? What is it that describes living well? And if someone said to me, you're going to begin again, we're going to take you back to age 0 or age 10, and you're going to do things differently, what will it be? Is there something I want to do differently? What are the choices? When you ask people those questions, they go, I'm gonna buy like Nasdaq or like buy shares, buy shares in Dow Jones when it was like stupid cheap, or Microsoft when it was stupid cheap. Like, is our story about? Is it about wealth? Is it about health? Is it about fulfillment? Like, what is it? What makes life worth living? What does living well mean? I want you guys to think about that. Like, I'm super curious. And I also think, like, when I think about the writing in this, and just like the narrative voice of the story, like everything feels so effortless. Like, it's so profound in how effortless. Like Klune does this thing where he's telling an ordinary story that feels incredibly extraordinary, delicate, and powerful all at once. His prose is simple, they're poetic, they're filled with warmth. Again, every book I've read of this man feels like a warm hug. The humor is gentle. It balances out the weightier, like, themes of death and grief here, because there's when I talked about, for those of you who watched the last season, I talked about a book called The Afterlife of Mal Caldera. And one of the insights I got from that book was the living grieve for sure, but even the dead also grieve their lost lives. And I think we see a lot of that in Wallace, like his grief of the life he had, even though by all accounts it was a pretty shitty life. But I think more a case of not necessarily grieving that life per se, but the life that it could have been, the things that he's learning from Hugo, what he's experiencing with his little band of afterlifers, that what life could have been. So a lot of found family themes here. Um, so it's like, I also love the way he like captures quiet moments. Oh my gosh, guys, TJ Klune loves quiet moments. Maybe that's why I love TJ Klune, because I love quiet moments. Like, it's like I was writing like in the notes about the way I thought about the quiet moments, because I noticed that a lot in the book. Because when I was reading it, um, I had a lot of time to myself because I was on vacation, and I baked in a lot of quiet time. Reading time, but also reading in quiet and beautiful spaces. So it resonated well. Like, I'm reading this book that made quiet moments almost like another character, that it felt so poignant. So I wrote this down when I was thinking about the quiet moments. I was like, one of the things I love about TJ Klune's writing is the way he captures quiet moments, sitting in a tea shop, pouring tea, sharing a silence. These moments are small, but they carry so much meaning, reinforcing the book's message that life is made up of tiny, precious interactions. And we don't we don't appreciate tiny, precious interactions that much. We really don't. We don't think about um how being able to sit quietly with someone, how important that is. Um, One of my most kind of core memories of my adult life, I would say, is I remember it was a couple weeks, maybe a few months after my mom had passed away. And we'd been go and so busy that I didn't have I didn't cry. I hadn't cried. It'd been like 6 weeks and I hadn't cried. And one day, I was lecturing at the time. One day, I just kind of broke down. I couldn't stop crying. I went home and I lay on the bathroom floor And I was there for hours. And a friend of mine came over and she got down, laid down on that bathroom floor with me. And she said to me, if this is what you need, we will lie here until there are no more tears to cry. And we sat in silence for maybe hours. Like it felt like days, to be honest. And that quiet moment is literally the thing that brought me back to myself and to life in a way, because there's such power in quiet moments where someone just sitting with you silently, knowing that that person is there and whatever it is you're going through, they are just sitting there as a steady force to kind of ground you and bring you back. It's so critical. And I think TJ Klune, really does this well in the way he writes and in the way he positions our character, like Wallace and Hugo. There's a lot of quiet moments that we experience between these two characters. And I just absolutely like, I just love that. Um, the dialogue as well, like I always say, it's super witty. They're so funny. Like as well, like this is a deeply beautiful and emotional book, and the subject matter is very weighty, but the dialogue is really good. It's so witty. The way Wallace like banters with Hugo, with May, who's like our no nonsense reaper, as I said, with Nelson, Hugo's grandfather. Their conversation, the depth, it's the lightness of it. It makes the book like it's like a book that deals with death, but it doesn't feel heavy handed. It's a book that deals with relationship, building friendships, getting to know people, learning to trust them, learning to care for them, learning to have their back, like creating your squad and your people, your found family. I really, really love that. Um, and this world, like, if I think about the world of Under the Whispering Door and like the setting, the stage that is set for this, it's really for me this tea shop, and it's literally my favorite set. Like my favorite thing about it is it is not your typical afterlife. Like I said this in the beginning, it is not your typical afterlife. It's not grand landscapes. There are no pearly gates. There are no celestial beings. It's just something intimate. It is this beautiful, cozy tea shop where the tea itself, it's a character. So we are in a tea shop that exists at the edge of existence. It literally, it's a quiet little tea shop and it sits at the edge of existence. And we are revolving around this. We don't leave it. We're here with Wallace in this space. Um, it's more than a setting, this tea shop, it's a character in its own right. The space, the way they describe it is full of warmth. It is Hugo. It is the kindness that he brings into it. There's comfort. Every cup of tea is carefully brewed and it has meaning and it has weight to the person drinking it. And I think that as a tea drinker, that's so important to me because for me, I always say to people, there's nothing in this world that a cup of tea cannot solve, or at the very least, quiet for a minute. And when I have my tea, it is a very personal, almost spiritual moment for me. And when I was reading this and just the way they talk about tea and the way like, you know, time moves differently when they're drinking tea, I felt that deeply personally. It also creates a feeling of safety and reflection. It's a place of transition naturally because you're crossing over to the next thing, right? But it's also a place of healing. So Wallace is deeply a broken man when he gets here, but he begins to heal from all of that in this space. It touches on the bureaucracy of death. Who knew death has bureaucracy? They have a manager. So they're like, oh, please don't do that because it's going to like attract them. The manager's going to come and it's not going to be good. But I also love that idea of like, there's a bureaucracy in death and it's humorous, but it's also poignant. It feels so human because there are rules. There are things you cannot do in this kind of world of afterlife, right? So I love that Wallace doesn't just step into the afterlife. There are rules, expectations, processes as a lawyer for him. That must have been fun. And it just makes everything feel so oddly human and also a little bit delicate in the way that it's presented to the reader. So for me, it made me feel like the way this book made me feel was it kept me in a place of reflection throughout reading, reflection about my life and the choices that I make, right? So if we kind of look at the way Wallace starts off, so he starts off as someone who doesn't realize how empty his life is. And he only knows this when it's too late. When it's too late for him to do anything about it, uh, he was like, "Oh no, my life had nothing. It had no meaning." Um, so us watching him slowly open up and kind of like learning to love, and this is a really critical thing, right? Like this idea of learning to love, learning to appreciate the simple joys of existence. It's incredibly moving. Um, and then like Hugo, the gentility of the man. I just want to find that man. If there's a Hugo as is written in Under the Whispering Door, find me. My DMs are open for you because he's gentle, his unwavering kindness. He's got this. It's just a beautiful highlight to the way to the story. He doesn't push Wallace. He doesn't force him to change. He doesn't do any of that. He simply exists as a quiet force for him to like feel. So like it's like this force of compassion, right? So it's like where it's like I feel like Hugo and Wallace. This whole book is their lie on the bathroom tiles and sit in the quiet until there are no more tears to cry. That is this whole book. That's the whole moment in this book where he gives them space to feel, he gives them space to grieve, he gives them space to heal. And what struck me the most was the book's message that it's never too late to find meaning with your life. So even in death, you can find meaning in your life. So Wallace is able to change. He even makes an amends to things that happened in his living life, you know. And it's just like I kept thinking like there's nothing one cannot come back from. Like if you just take a breath enough to assess and reflect, there's nothing you cannot come back from. Um, I really like. I'm so looking forward to reading more of T.J. Klune's work because there is just such poignancy in the way he writes. He's very big on found family, and he's very like the love story between Hugo and Wallace is like the way the slow burn of how it develops. Oh, it just touches it touches you in such delicate and beautiful way that just makes you feel like, you know what, I too can be seen in this way and I too can grow, I too can heal. I have like there's nothing so broken that it cannot be fixed. So I really want to read more of his work. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. Under the Whispering Door is it's a book. It is a book that is worth every page of it. So I really, really like it. I love that, you know, the tagline at the bottom is like, death is only their beginning. And I love that about it. So that has been Under the Whispering Door. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of the Book Corner with Mich Atagana. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope that you found comfort in this beautiful book. And I hope you go read this book because I really do think it's worth the read. Please find me on Instagram at GlobeMish if you want to talk about this book some more or more of TJ Klune's work, or on TikTok, Books and Sneakers. And until next time, keep reading, keep evolving, and keep healing. And we out.